Speaker, I'd move to suspend Rule 8, Section 13 of the House Rules and all other necessary rules to allow the House, if you don't mind, I'll finish the motion. I'll be happy to yield. Allow the House to consider each of the items eligible on today's 2 items eligible calendars.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Hochberg, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
What is the effective impact of what Mr. Geren just moved?
Mr. Hochberg, the impact is, as Mr. Geren stated, that the midnight deadline would not apply.
So, Mr. Speaker, if a bill is on the calendar at a late hour, it would then be impossible for that bill not to come up at a time when it would not be eligible to be passed? In other words, whenever it comes up, even if we don't get to that bill, if let's say there's a bill toward the end of the items eligible list, this would mean that regardless of when we get to that bill, be it before midnight or after, the bill is still eligible for consideration and does not require a 2/3 vote in order to pass or be taken up and considered?
That's correct.
And, okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield?
Mr. Geren, to yield.
I will.
Why would we do that, Mr. Geren?
Mr. Hochberg, there's a lot, excuse me, there's a lot of things on this calendar that are very important to all of us, and I think that it shows that we're willing to work to get the state's business done.
Mr. Geren, we have rules that deal with when committee reports, conference committee reports have to be turned in and when they have to be published, and deadlines that members are well aware of. And I believe that in the past we have taken up items after midnight on a case-by-case basis, and if the body is willing to suspend on a case-by-case basis with a 2/3 vote, we have suspended those rules.
That is correct. I was just going to get that out of the way now, Scott.
Well, I personally would much rather we follow the other procedure and vote on them on a case-by-case basis, unless, I guess the only other way to do it might be to allow members to flag bills that they would not like to make subject to your motion, but I don't see any reason why we can't follow procedure as we normally have in the past. Those bills that are late, if they have 2/3, they can move on, and if they're not, they can't.
Well, Scott, I would urge you then to vote against the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Geren. I will.
Mr.
Speaker.
Mr. Turner, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield?
I will gladly yield.
Representative Geren, this is the 139th day of the session.
That's correct, Mr. Turner.
For 139 days, with the exception of 2 times, we have adhered to the House rules. I'm trying to understand the necessity of changing the House rules on the 139th day.
This is part of the rules, Mr. Turner, and we have suspended on more than one occasion.
There were a lot of bills, Representative Geren, that died.
Sylvester, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
There were a lot of bills that died on the House calendar.
Yes, sir, I had several of them myself.
A few weeks ago. There was not a motion to suspend the rules, and those bills died.
I know I had some that died.
And that is correct. And many other members had bills to die. And that was the nature of the House rules. I'm at a loss, Representative Geren, to understand on the 139th day why we would suspend the midnight rule and for it not to apply now.
I'm hoping that it won't apply anyway, Mr. Turner. I'm hoping that we'll get the state's business done well before that.
Well, I will tell you, I have objected to House Bill, or whatever it is, 1811, coming up before the time eligible. I have placed that notice on the chairs, on the parliamentarian's desk. And the reason why I did that, Representative Geren, is because other than the appropriations bill, that is the second most important bill of this session.
I would agree with you, Mr. Turner.
Are you then, to the extent your motion and the Speaker adheres to your motion, are you also willing to remove all time constraints as it relates to debating House Bill 1811?
No, sir, I'm not, Mr. Turner.
Well, that's what I'm having a problem understanding. You're willing to suspend the rules in order to take up 1811 and others, but you are not willing to suspend the rules to allow this House to debate the second most important bill that has not gone through the committee process, that has not gone through any debate on the floor.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I move to extend my time, Mr. Speaker. I move to suspend the rules to continue the dialogue.
Members, there's a 3-minute pro and con time limit on the motion.
I'm not understanding. I move to suspend the rule in order to continue the discussion with Representative Geren, Mr. Speaker. It's the 139th of 140 days. And it is about suspending of the rules. I'm not understanding where we're going right now.
Mr. Turner, would you bring your motion down front?
No, Mr. Speaker, I will not. Not if the chair is going to consider Representative Geren's motion. If the chair is going to recognize him for this motion, then I would like this discussion to take place so that everybody in the state of Texas can be aware of it. I'm not interested in a private conversation.
Mr. Turner, I was going to recognize you for your motion.
The motion is
to extend the time.
My motion is to continue the conversation with Representative Geren, Mr. Speaker.
I believe he said he recognizes your motion, Mr. Turner.
Well, I did not understand that. My apology.
Yes.
Representative Geren, the point that I am making, will you agree with me that House Bill 1811 is the second most important bill behind the appropriation bill?
I've already agreed with you on that, Mr. Turner.
And will you agree with me that it has not been on the House floor as it relates to the school financing portion?
I would agree with you, Mr. Turner.
And will you agree with me that 95% of the people on this House floor were not a part of the agreement that was reached as it relates to school finance?
I would agree with that, sir.
And will you agree that we are talking about a bill that is approximately 350 pages long?
That's correct, sir.
And and my request of you, to the extent, 395 pages, to the extent this House is willing to suspend the rules, the midnight rule, in order for some of you to get whatever bills you want through, I am asking you to suspend also the rules so that we can fully and adequately discuss and debate 1811, which includes school finance.
That is not part of the motion that I have up, Mr. Turner. You might ask if you could do that. I am not making that motion, sir.
Are you willing to accept an amendment to your motion that we have all the ample time?
You'd have to define ample, Mr. Turner.
Well, Mr. Geren, if I knew you were going to be making your motion, I would have talked to you ahead of time.
Mr. Turner, you weren't on the floor when I got here, and I only saw you coming in. Just a few minutes after I spoke on the back mic.
Will you be willing to pull down your motions so that we can talk about it and then bring your motion back at another time?
I would be willing to do that, Mr. Turner.
Thank you. I would appreciate it, Representative Geren.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
The motion is temporarily withdrawn.